Have you ever looked back at your life and realized that some situations should have completely broken you? Moments that were so heavy, so overwhelming, and so uncertain that by all logic you were not supposed to make it through, yet somehow you did. Not because everything was easy, and not because the pain disappeared, but because something within you kept going even when you had no clear direction. And in those moments when everything felt against you, when people turned their backs, when doors closed unexpectedly, when opportunities slipped away, and when nothing seemed to go your way, no matter how much effort you put in, there was still something quietly guiding you. Something unseen that kept you from falling into destruction, something that stopped certain things from happening at the last moment, redirected you without explanation, and preserved you in ways you could never fully understand at the time. And what if the truth is that your journey has never been random? What if every delay you experienced, every setback that frustrated you, and every escape you walked away from was not coincidence at all, but a sign that you have been under a level of protection that you cannot fully see, measure, or explain? And even now, as you continue moving forward in life, there are powerful forces working behind the scenes, aligning events in your favor, blocking what is not meant for you, guiding you toward what is, protecting you from harm you were never meant to face, and preparing something ahead that is slowly coming together in silence, something that will not only transform your life in ways you cannot yet imagine, but will also shock everyone who never understood your journey, because they only saw what was visible on the surface, while the real story of your protection was always unfolding behind the scenes, unnoticed but always active. There are many moments in your life where things did not go the way you carefully planned, where you expected a door to open, but instead it closed without any clear reason, where opportunities you were excited about suddenly slipped away from your hands, and where relationships you trusted ended in a way that left you confused, hurt, and searching for answers that never came. And in those moments it felt heavy, it felt unfair, it felt like something important was being taken away from you, as if life was working against you instead of for you. And you may have even questioned why things kept falling apart when all you wanted was for them to work out. But what you could not see at that time, what your emotions did not allow you to fully understand, was that there was a hidden layer of protection quietly operating behind the scenes. A protection that does not always look like blessings in the moment, because Allah does not always protect you by giving you what you ask for. Sometimes He protects you by removing things that seem good but carry hidden harm, by closing doors that could have led you into pain, regret, or long-term damage, by distancing you from people who seemed right but were not meant to stay in your life, and by redirecting your path in a way that feels uncomfortable now, but is actually guiding you towards something safer and better. And this kind of protection is difficult to recognize immediately because it does not come with clear explanations. It comes with confusion, delays, and silence. But as time passes and as you grow, you begin to see things more clearly. You start connecting the moments that once made no sense, and you realize that certain things had to fall apart so better things could come together. You realize that certain people had to leave because they were never meant to be part of your future. And you realize that certain opportunities had to disappear because they would have taken you in the wrong direction. And in that moment of realization, your perspective shifts completely, because you no longer see those experiences as losses. You begin to see them as a form of mercy, a form of guidance, and a form of protection that was always there even when you did not understand it. And that is when you truly accept that what felt like rejection was actually redirection, what felt like delay was actually preparation, and what felt like silence was actually Allah protecting you in a way that your limited understanding could not yet fully comprehend. One of the deepest truths that many people struggle to fully understand is that not all help in your life comes in a visible or obvious form. because we are used to thinking that support must come from people we can see, talk to, and recognize. But in reality, Allah's system of protection is far greater and far more powerful than what our eyes can perceive, and there are unseen allies assigned to your life, working silently in ways you cannot track, controlling outcomes, shifting situations, and protecting you from harm without you even realizing it. And there have been moments in your life where something could have gone completely wrong, where a situation could have turned against you, where you were close to making a decision that might have caused damage, yet somehow things changed at the last second. Something interrupted the plan, something redirected your path, or something simply did not happen at all. And you may have thought it was luck, coincidence, or just a random turn of events. But in reality, nothing in your life is random, because Allah is Al-Wakil, the one who takes care of all affairs, and He arranges protection for His chosen servants in ways that go beyond human understanding. And these unseen allies may come in the form of circumstances aligning perfectly, delays that stop you from reaching harmful places, sudden changes that pull you away from danger, or even a feeling in your heart that prevents you from taking the wrong step. And the more you reflect on your life, the more you begin to notice a pattern that cannot be ignored, because things have been working in your favor even when it looked like they were not. And this creates a quiet confidence within you, a deep sense of trust that no matter how uncertain things may seem on the surface, there is always something operating behind the scenes for your benefit. And when Allah assigns this level of unseen support to someone, it creates a kind of protection that cannot be easily broken, because even when people try to harm you, even when situations seem against you, there is always something stepping in, something blocking, something redirecting, ensuring that what is meant for you is preserved and what is not meant for you is kept away. And once you truly understand this, you stop relying only on what you can see, and you begin to trust in what Allah is doing beyond your vision, knowing that you are never navigating this life alone. If you truly pause for a moment and look back at your life with honesty, not just at the good moments, but especially at the hardest ones, you will begin to notice something that does not make sense in a normal way, because there were situations you went through that should have broken you completely. Times when the emotional pressure was too heavy, when the stress kept building, when the disappointment kept repeating, and when the weight of everything you were carrying felt like it was too much for one person to handle. And in those moments you may not have felt strong, you may not have felt confident, and you may not have even believed that you would make it through, yet somehow you did. Somehow you kept going, even when you had no clear reason to continue. And even now, when you think about those moments, it surprises you how you survived them, because it was not just about strength, it was not just about willpower, it was something deeper than that. Something that carried you when you were at your lowest point, something that held you together when everything inside you felt like it was falling apart. And that is where the realization begins to change, because you start to understand that your survival was not ordinary. It was not something that can be explained by effort alone. It was something intentional, something guided, something protected, because chosen ones are not left to fall apart when their purpose is still ahead of them. They are preserved, even when they feel weak, even when they feel lost, even when they feel like giving up. And this is why no matter how many times life tested you, no matter how many times people disappointed you, and no matter how many times circumstances tried to push you down, you still remained, you still stood back up, and you still continued forward. And this is not something small. This is a sign that there is something within your journey that must be fulfilled, something that requires you to still be here, to still be moving, to still be growing. And until that purpose is completed, there is a level of protection around you that will not allow you to be destroyed. Even if you come close, even if you feel like you are at your limit, because your existence is not random, Your survival is not accidental, and your journey is not meaningless. It is all part of something greater that is still unfolding. And one day you will look back at everything you went through and realize that you were never just surviving. You were being preserved for something that is still ahead of you. As you move through your journey, one truth slowly becomes clear, even if you tried to ignore it at first. And that is the realization that not everyone around you truly wanted to see you succeed, because there were people who smiled in your presence, who spoke kindly to you, who acted supportive on the surface. But behind that image, there were different intentions, hidden feelings of jealousy, competition, or even resentment that you could not fully see at the time. And over time, their actions began to reveal themselves, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes in more direct ways, where you noticed obstacles appearing out of nowhere, misunderstandings being created, opportunities being affected, or situations turning against you without clear explanation. And it may have felt confusing because you could not always prove what was happening, but deep inside you sensed that something was not right. And despite all of this, despite whatever was planned, whatever was said, and whatever was attempted, one thing remained consistent, and that is the fact that their efforts never fully succeeded in destroying you. Because even when things became difficult, even when you were affected emotionally or temporarily set back, you were never completely taken down. You were never completely removed from your path. And this is where the deeper understanding begins, because you start to realize that there is a limit to what people can do, no matter how much they try, no matter how carefully they plan. And that limit is set by Allah, because no plan can succeed if Allah has already decided to protect you. And this changes the entire perspective of what you went through, because instead of seeing yourself as someone who was constantly targeted or attacked, you begin to see yourself as someone who was constantly being defended, someone whose path was being guarded, even when it looked like things were going wrong. And over time, the same people who underestimated you or tried to block you begin to notice something they cannot explain, which is that you keep moving forward, you keep rebuilding, you keep growing, and their influence over your life keeps becoming smaller. And this realization starts to create a sense of discomfort within them, because they begin to understand that there is something about you that they cannot control, something about you that does not break the way they expected. And that is when the truth becomes clear, not just to you, but to them as well, that you are not operating under normal circumstances. You are under a level of protection that they cannot see, cannot reach, and cannot overcome. And once you fully accept this, you stop fearing what people can do to you, and you start trusting in the one who is protecting you, knowing that no matter what is planned against you, it will never go beyond what Allah has already allowed. And what He has allowed will always serve a purpose in your journey, even if you do not understand it immediately. There are moments in your life where you prayed sincerely for something, where you put in your full effort, where you stayed patient longer than most people would, and yet despite all of that, what you were asking for did not come when you expected it to. And this is one of the hardest tests to face, because it does not come with clear answers. It comes with silence, with waiting, and with a feeling that makes you question whether your efforts are even being seen. And in those moments, your heart can feel heavy, your mind can start overthinking, and you may begin to wonder why things are taking so long when you feel ready, when you believe you have done everything you possibly can. But what is often hidden from you in that moment is that delay is not always a sign that something is being denied. Sometimes it is a sign that something is being protected, prepared, and perfectly timed in a way that your current understanding cannot yet fully grasp. Because Allah does not only decide what you receive, He also decides when you receive it. And that timing is never random. It is always precise, always intentional, and always connected to a bigger picture that you cannot yet see. When something is delayed, it is often because receiving it too early could expose you to harm. It could place you in the wrong environment, it could connect you with the wrong people, or it could even lead you to lose that very thing you were asking for, because not everything that you desire is safe for you at every stage of your life. And Allah, in His wisdom, protects your future by controlling your present. He withholds not to punish you, but to secure what is meant for you, so that when it finally comes into your life, it comes in a way that is stable, lasting, and aligned with everything else that has been prepared for you. And this is why some doors remain closed longer than you expect. This is why some answers are delayed beyond your understanding, because there are unseen factors being arranged, there are situations being aligned, and there are outcomes being protected in ways that go far beyond what you can perceive in the moment. If you look into the lives of the prophets, you will see that delay was never a sign of abandonment. It was always part of a greater plan. And one of the most powerful examples of this is the story of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, who was thrown into a well by his own brothers, taken away from his family, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned despite his innocence. And if you look at his journey from a surface level, it appears as a series of delays, a life where nothing seemed to happen at the right time, where injustice continued, and where freedom seemed distant. But in reality, every delay was positioning him for something greater, because if he had been freed too early, if he had returned home too soon, he would not have reached the position that Allah had prepared for him. And it was only after years of patience, after years of waiting, that he was elevated to a position of authority and honor, where he was not only able to change his own life, but also the lives of many others. And in that moment, every delay made sense, every hardship had a purpose, and every moment of waiting became part of a larger design that could not have unfolded any other way. Another powerful example is Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, whose life was filled with moments of waiting and uncertainty, from being placed in the river as a baby to growing up in the house of Pharaoh, to later being forced to leave and live in exile for years before receiving his mission. And if you look at his journey, you will see that nothing happened quickly. Nothing happened in the way that one might expect, but every phase of his life was preparing him for the role he was destined to fulfill. And even when he was chosen as a prophet, even when he was given the responsibility to confront Pharaoh, the victory did not come instantly. There were still moments of challenge, moments of fear, and moments where patience was required. And yet through all of this, Allah's timing remained perfect, because every delay was strengthening him, shaping him, and preparing him for the responsibility he was about to carry. And then you look at the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and you see one of the clearest examples of how delay is part of divine wisdom, because the message of Islam did not spread overnight, the struggles did not end immediately, and the hardships did not disappear quickly. There were years of rejection, years of difficulty, and years of patience before the victory of Makkah came. And even in moments where the believers felt that relief should have come sooner, Allah's timing remained precise, because the delay was building strength, unity, and faith within them, preparing them for a victory that would not only come, but would be lasting and impactful beyond their imagination. When you reflect on these examples, you begin to understand that delay is not a sign that you are forgotten. It is a sign that you are being prepared, that you are being protected from receiving something at the wrong time, and that you are being guided toward a moment where everything will come together in a way that is far better than what you originally expected. And this realization changes how you view your own waiting, because instead of seeing it as emptiness, you begin to see it as development. Instead of seeing it as rejection, you begin to see it as redirection, and instead of seeing it as silence, you begin to see it as a process that is quietly working in your favor. There is also a hidden transformation that happens within you during this delay, because while you are waiting for things to happen externally, something is changing internally. Your patience is being strengthened, Your understanding is becoming deeper, your intentions are being purified, and your reliance on Allah is becoming more sincere. And these are qualities that cannot be developed instantly. They require time, they require experience, and they require moments of uncertainty that push you to grow in ways you would not have chosen for yourself. And this is why delay is not just about protecting what you will receive, it is also about preparing who you will become when you receive it. Because sometimes the blessing is ready, but you are still being shaped into the person who can carry it properly. And when the moment finally comes, when what you have been waiting for finally enters your life, it will not feel random, it will not feel misplaced, it will feel right, it will feel aligned, and it will feel secure in a way that could not have been possible earlier. And that is when you realize that nothing was ever late, nothing was ever missing, everything was simply being held back until the perfect time. And that perfect time is something only Allah can see, because He sees what you cannot see, He knows what you do not know, and He plans in ways that go beyond your understanding. So, when you find yourself in a period of delay, instead of letting it weaken your faith, let it strengthen your trust, because what is being prepared for you is not small, and what is being protected for you is not temporary. And when it finally arrives, it will make you understand why it had to take this long, why certain things had to be removed, why certain paths had to be closed, and why certain moments had to feel uncertain. Because in the end, you will see that every delay was a form of protection, every waiting period was a form of preparation, and every unanswered moment was actually an answer in itself, guiding you towards something far greater than what you could have imagined. There comes a phase in your life where everything about you appears quiet on the surface, where nothing seems extraordinary to the outside world, where your efforts are not being recognized, your growth is not being celebrated, and your progress is not being noticed in the way you once expected. And during this phase, people begin to form opinions about you based only on what they can see. They assume that nothing significant is happening in your life. They interpret your silence as weakness, your patience as a lack of progress, and your distance as irrelevance. And what makes this even more difficult is that sometimes you start to feel it too. You start to question whether you are really moving forward, whether your efforts are leading anywhere, and whether all the waiting and struggling is actually worth it. But what you do not realize in that moment is that this phase is not empty, it is not meaningless. It is a period of hidden preparation, a time where everything is being built beneath the surface in a way that cannot yet be seen or understood. During this stage, while others are judging based on appearances, your reality is being shaped in the unseen, because there are shifts happening that are not visible. There are doors being aligned that have not yet opened. There are opportunities being prepared that have not yet appeared. And there are changes taking place within you that are far more important than external validation. And this is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood parts of the journey of a chosen one, because it requires you to continue without recognition, to grow without applause, and to believe without visible proof. And this is where many people lose patience. This is where many people give up, because they rely too much on what they can see. But those who continue, those who remain patient, those who trust the process, even when it feels slow or uncertain, are the ones who eventually experience a shift so powerful that it changes everything. What makes your rise different is not just the result, it is the way it happens, because it does not unfold gradually in a way that everyone can track step by step. It builds quietly over time and then reveals itself suddenly. And this is why, when it finally happens, it shocks people, because they were not aware of the process. They did not see the preparation. They did not understand the depth of what was happening behind the scenes. And from their perspective, it looks like everything changed overnight. It looks like you suddenly became successful, suddenly became strong, suddenly reached a level they did not expect. But in reality, it was never sudden. It was simply hidden until the right moment. It was being developed in silence until it was ready to be revealed. There is also a deeper wisdom in why your rise is delayed and hidden for so long. Because if everything had been visible from the beginning, if people had seen your growth step by step, it would have attracted attention, interference, and negativity before you were fully ready. And sometimes protection requires concealment. Sometimes growth needs to happen hid from the eyes of others, because not everyone is meant to witness your process, and not everyone is meant to have access to your journey. And this is why Allah allows you to go through phases where you feel unseen, where you feel unnoticed, and where you feel like nothing is happening. Because in those very moments, the most important transformations are taking place. As you continue through this phase, something else begins to develop within you, something that is even more valuable than external success, and that is inner strength, clarity, and independence. Because when you are not relying on validation from others, when you are not dependent on recognition, and when you are not distracted by external opinions, you begin to build a stronger connection with your purpose. You begin to understand yourself on a deeper level, and you begin to move with a sense of certainty that does not depend on what others think or say. And this is what prepares you for what is coming next, because when your rise finally happens, it will not just be about achieving something externally, it will be about stepping into a version of yourself that is ready to handle it. And when that moment arrives, it will not be small, it will not be subtle, and it will not be something that can be easily ignored, because the shift will be clear, the change will be visible, and the impact will be undeniable. And the same people who once overlooked you, who once underestimated you, or who once questioned your path, will find themselves confused, surprised, and even shocked, trying to understand how everything changed so quickly, how you reached a level they never expected, and how you became someone they did not recognize. And what they will not understand is that this transformation did not happen suddenly. It was the result of everything you went through in silence, everything you endured without recognition, and everything that was being prepared for you behind the scenes. This is also the moment where the truth becomes visible, not just to you, but to everyone around you, because what was once hidden is now revealed. What was once doubted is now confirmed, and what was once underestimated is now undeniable. And in that moment, there is no need to explain yourself. There is no need to prove anything, because your reality will speak for itself. Your journey will speak for itself, and the outcome will speak louder than any words ever could. But what is important to understand is that this rise is not just for recognition. It is not just to prove others wrong. It is part of a greater purpose, something that goes beyond personal success, because the position you are being prepared for carries responsibility, it carries influence, and it carries impact. And this is why it had to take time. This is why it had to be hidden, and this is why it had to be protected, because not everything can be revealed too early, and not everything can be given before its time. So, if you are in a phase right now where nothing seems to be happening, where you feel unseen, where you feel like your efforts are going unnoticed, understand that this is not the end of your story. This is the preparation for your rise. This is the stage where everything is being aligned, and this is the moment where your patience matters the most. Because what is coming is not ordinary. What is coming is something that will shift not only your life, but also the perception of everyone who once doubted you. And when it finally happens, when everything comes together in a way that you could not have predicted, you will look back at this quiet phase, this hidden phase, this uncertain phase, and you will realize that it was necessary, that it was intentional, and that it was preparing you for a moment that would change everything, a moment that would shock people, silence doubts, and prove that what was being built in silence was always meant to rise in power. When you take a step back and look at your life as a whole, not just at one moment, but at the entire pattern of your experiences, the ups and downs, the struggles and the survival, the delays and the unexpected outcomes. You begin to notice something that is too consistent to be called coincidence, because no matter how difficult things became, no matter how close you came to breaking, no matter how uncertain your path looked, you were never completely destroyed, you were never completely lost, and you were never left without a way forward. And this is where a deeper realization begins to form, because you start to understand that your life is not random, your journey is not ordinary, and your experiences are not meaningless. They are all part of something greater that is unfolding step by step, even when you cannot see the full picture. There is a reason why you have been protected in ways that you cannot fully explain. A reason why certain things did not happen to you. A reason why certain situations ended before they could harm you completely. And a reason why you are still here despite everything that could have taken you down. And that reason is not just about survival, it is about purpose. Because you are not being guarded simply to exist, you are being guarded because there is something attached to your life that must be fulfilled. Something that requires you to go through certain experiences, to develop certain strengths, and to reach a certain level of understanding before it can fully manifest. And this is why your journey has been different. This is why your challenges have been deeper. And this is why your path has required more patience than most. Sometimes it may feel like your life is harder than it should be, like you are facing challenges that others do not seem to face, like you are being tested in ways that feel unfair or overwhelming. But what you have to understand is that the level of your test is connected to the level of your purpose, because not everyone is being prepared for the same outcome. Not everyone is being shaped for the same role. And when your purpose carries weight, your preparation will also carry intensity. And this is something that many people misunderstand, because they see the struggle but they do not see the significance behind it. They feel the pressure but they do not realize what it is building within them. As you continue through your journey, even in moments where you feel alone, where you feel like no one truly understands what you are going through, there is still a level of protection around you that does not leave, that does not weaken, and that does not disappear, because it is not dependent on people, it is not dependent on circumstances. It is something that comes directly from Allah, something that remains constant even when everything else changes. And this is why, even in your lowest moments, even when you feel lost, even when you feel disconnected, you are still being guided in ways you cannot see. You are still being kept away from certain harm, and you are still being positioned for something that is yet to come. There is also a hidden process happening within you during this journey, something that goes beyond external events, because while you are dealing with situations on the outside, something is being built on the inside. Your mindset is changing, your awareness is increasing, your strength is growing, and your ability to handle pressure is expanding. And these are not small changes. These are foundational transformations that are preparing you for a level of responsibility that requires more than just surface-level strength. Because when your purpose begins to unfold, it will demand clarity, patience, discipline, and resilience. And these qualities cannot be developed overnight. They must be built over time through experiences that challenge you, shape you, and force you to grow beyond your comfort zone. And this is why nothing you have gone through is wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the delays, and not even the moments where you felt like giving up, because every part of your journey is contributing to who you are becoming. Every challenge is adding to your strength, and every experience is preparing you for what lies ahead, even if you do not see the connection right now, even if you do not understand how it all fits together. There will come a time when everything makes sense, when you will look back and see how each moment played a role in shaping your path. What is important for you to realize right now is that you are not just moving through life without direction. You are being guided, you are being protected, and you are being positioned for something that is greater than what you can currently imagine. And this understanding should not create pressure, it should create trust, because when you know that your life has purpose, when you know that your journey is guided, you begin to move differently, you begin to think differently, and you begin to handle challenges with a different mindset, not as obstacles meant to stop you, but as steps meant to prepare you. There will be moments where you feel tired, where you feel like the process is taking too long, where you feel like you have already given more than enough. And in those moments it is easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. But this is where your trust becomes important, because you have to remind yourself that what is being prepared for you is not small, it is not temporary, and it is not something that can be rushed, because anything that carries real value requires time, requires effort, and requires the right conditions to fully develop. And Allah, in His wisdom, knows exactly when and how everything should come together. And when that moment finally arrives, when your purpose begins to unfold in a way that you can clearly see and understand, it will not feel random, it will not feel out of place, it will feel right, it will feel aligned, and it will feel like everything you went through was leading to that point. And that is when you will fully understand why you had to be protected, why you had to be guided, and why you had to go through everything that you experienced. Because it was never just about the struggle, it was always about the destination. So, if you are in a phase right now where things feel uncertain, where the path is not clear, and where the outcome is not visible, remind yourself that you are still under protection, you are still being guided, and you are still moving towards something that has already been written for you. And nothing that is meant for you will miss you, and nothing that is not meant for you will reach you. And this alone should give you a sense of peace, a sense of patience, and a sense of trust that no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult it feels, everything is unfolding exactly as it should, because you are not just surviving by chance, you are being guarded for a greater purpose, and that purpose is still ahead of you, waiting for the right moment to be revealed in a way that will make everything you went through finally make sense. Conclusion: the truth they never saw coming. At the end of everything you have experienced in your life, all the confusion you felt, all the delays you questioned, and all the moments where nothing seemed to make sense, there is a deeper truth that begins to become clear, and that is the realization that your journey was never random and your struggles were never without purpose, because behind every setback there was protection, behind every closed door there was redirection, and behind every silent period there was something being prepared for you in ways you could not yet see. While others may have judged your path based only on what was visible to them, they completely missed the reality of what was happening behind the scenes. They did not see how your life was being guided step by step, how certain things were being removed to protect you, and how certain delays were actually positioning you for something greater. And even though people may have doubted you, underestimated you, or assumed that you would not rise beyond your circumstances, the fact that you are still here, still moving forward, and still growing, is proof that your journey has always been under divine care, because no human opinion, no obstacle, and no plan against you could override what Allah has already written and protected for you. And what makes your story truly powerful is not just the destination you are heading toward, but everything you had to endure to become the person capable of reaching it. Because the patience you developed, the strength you built in silence, and the trust you held onto during uncertainty were all shaping you for a moment that is still ahead. A moment where everything will begin to align, where the unseen becomes visible, and where what once felt delayed will suddenly make complete sense. And when that moment arrives, it will not only surprise you, it will shock those who once doubted you, because they were only observing the surface, while the real transformation was happening in the unseen. And in that moment, you will no longer need to explain your journey or defend your path, because your life itself will stand as the proof. Your outcome will silence the doubts, and your story will clearly reflect that you were never alone at any point, but instead you were being guided, protected, and prepared every step of the way towards something that was always meant for you. And when you finally look back, you will understand with complete clarity that every hardship, every delay, and every silent moment was not a setback, but a necessary part of a perfectly designed path that led you exactly where you were always meant to be.